Hey everyone, what's going on? This is Rajan again, and in case you're new to Gamers for Change, I just want to state again that we're a channel here on YouTube that tries to create a more peaceful and united gaming community. So today, as you can tell probably by the title of the video, I'm going to be talking about kind of a controversial topic within the gaming community, the whole Call of Duty versus Halo series kind of debate. So I wanted to bring up a couple things about that. But before I do, you guys are watching some Black Ops gameplay that I played a while ago, and when I had a friend of mine record this, I thought that the game was when I played it, it seemed a lot more exciting and seemed more entertaining than it was. But then I had it recorded, and it didn't turn out to be as entertaining as I thought it'd been. Maybe you'll find it entertaining, but it definitely shows that I'm not the greatest player, but I do play the objective and I try and go for the win, like I've stated in previous videos. But so going back to the topic of what I'm going to be talking about today, the Call of Duty versus Halo debate. So I kind of want to make a statement before this video saying that most of what I say, I'm not going to try and use any bias, but I want to follow that up with saying that's going to be kind of impossible because obviously everyone has bias and everyone has their own opinions on everything, but I'm going to try and do my best to analyze the games in an unbiased way. So I'm kind of going to break this down into a few different categories that I've thought up of, and it's definitely not everything I want to cover, and I might not get to everything, so I'll probably do a follow-up video in the future on this topic, and maybe you guys can point out some things that you want me to cover or things that you thought that I left out. I'm not going to declare a winner of this debate, which game is better or which series is better, because I just don't think that would be fair to other series, or each other. I don't think it would be fair to either game in the series. And if you hear that in the background, that's an ambulance. Sorry about that. But, okay, so moving on to what I wanted to talk about. The first point that I wanted to talk about was something that I see come up a lot of times in Call of Duty videos or Halo videos in the comments section, is that, or I've heard this from many friends that I have, is that Call of Duty is a better game because it is more realistic, or it's a better game than Halo because it's more realistic. And they just make that blanket statement, basically. I hear this and then I kind of think to myself, so you're telling me that all these other games out here that are quote-unquote cartoon-like, which is what they call Halo, Halo's too cartoon-like, are horrible games. Like Super Smash Brothers, the original Super Smash Brothers game, for that matter, all Mario games, Pac-Man, the original Pac-Man, you're calling all of these games that kind of forged the gaming universe bad because they're too cartoony. I mean, using that logic, you can extend it to say that, oh, if a game's cartoony, it's bad. Now, don't get me wrong. This means you can have a preference. It's perfectly fine to have a preference and say, I like Call of Duty better because it is more realistic. That's perfectly fine to say. Everyone's entitled to their own preference of game, and you're totally okay to have that opinion. But it's not okay to say that Call of Duty is a better game than Halo because it is more realistic. That's just making an entire statement based on what you prefer, which is not correct. You may like the game better, but that doesn't give you the right to say that it's game based on this fact. And it's kind of a stupid, or I don't want to say stupid, maybe that's too strong of a word. It's too unreasonable to say that, that's something that you can base a game off of. So that's one of the topics I wanted to cover in both comparing COD and Halo, which, again, really isn't, in my opinion, really that great of an argument. But the next thing I wanted to talk about was customizability. I don't even know if that's a word, but customization. Customization within Call of Duty and the Halo series. So, since around Call of Duty 2, I believe it was, I don't know if they started this in the first Call of Duty because that was for the PC, but they've always had the idea of a loadout, the idea that at the beginning of a game you can start with a different set of weapons based on what you want to choose. but it wasn't until Call of Duty 4, I believe, that they introduced the idea of perks, these little bonuses, I guess you could call them, that give you this some upgraded like health, damage stats on your guns, more ammo, and you could make custom classes. Halo Reach didn't really implement. I mean, Halo. Sorry, Halo. The Halo series didn't implement this until Halo Reach. That's got it kind of backwards there. But from that aspect, I've always liked the Call of Duty series for doing that. They've always had this great in-game customizability where you could, make different classes the way you wanted to, put different attachments on guns, make your own custom classes, and kind of do what you want and make the game your own. Where in Halo, you're set to fixed weapons when you spawn and fixed weapons on the map. You can't really do much about that. Again, that changed with Halo Reach being released in the late last year. So I've always admired Call of Duty for that. But where Halo excels is the implementation of Forge mode in Halo 3. Halo 3 came out in 2007, so this was a little over 3 years ago. And this was just kind of like a monumental thing for first-person shooters on the console. PC games have always had this very wide range of tools at their disposal to kind of do whatever they want within the game. Map creators, map editors. But then Forge kind of took like a simplified version of that and put it on the console for Halo. You could take a map that was blank and make it your own. By adding in vehicles, weapons, barriers, crates, all these different things. Especially in the later map variants in Halo with maps like Foundry or Sandbox, you could basically recreate entire maps from older Halo games or create entirely new maps that were not based on the layout or geometry of the maps that you were limited to. So in the aspect of Call of Duty, where the aspect where Call of Duty excels rather is the idea of customizability in game. That is to say, the guns you use, the attachments you put on these guns, and the perks that you use to enhance your abilities. And Halo excels in the idea of this map editing techniques. So they both have their strengths and weaknesses. Obviously, Call of Duty, you can't go in and place weapons into a map. And in Halo, or until recently, you didn't start off with different weapons. So the next topic I wanted to cover was the how competitive these two games are. Like, how well do they do on a competitive basis? That is to say, like MLG game battles. All these, competitive ladders. This is where my bias, I think, is going to come in a little. Obviously, you could argue for the other side, but I'm going to have to go ahead and say that Halo is a slightly better competitive game than Call of Duty is. The reason for this being is that this kind of goes back to the what I was talking about, how you can customize the games. In Halo, you can go and put weapons on the map, and you can put them at fixed spawn times in fixed locations, and this creates another element to the game where you have to coordinate your teamwork in order to time weapons when they're going to come up, and power-ups too, for that matter. Where in Call of Duty, you don't have weapon spawns on maps. You're fixed to what custom classes you create. So another thing about the competitiveness of both games is the idea of player skill. So in this, I want to propose a hypothetical situation to you guys. If you have two players of exactly equal skill, this is to say that anytime they fight each other, they have an exactly 50-50 chance either of them can win. Basically what it comes down to is the in-game mechanics and how the game works on a randomness factor. In Halo, the randomness factor is diminished by a lot because you have these fixed weapons in competitive play that you start out with and that you use. most of the time it's BR or battle rifle on battle rifle fights. That is to say, you're limited to one weapon at the start, and player-on-player battles mostly focus on this one weapon. Obviously, they can vary to the rocket or the sniper, but a lot of the game centers around how good your BR is. And the one fault of this is if two players are evenly matched, like the hypothetical situation I proposed earlier, then they're subject to the randomness of the game, which is to say the BR spread, which is something you can't control. In Call of Duty, since you can choose all these different guns you can use, and you're able to use them on online in game battles, there are some restrictions I have heard. I don't know much about game battles, but you are restricted to like equipment. You can use perks and weapons. But all the different guns have, many different recoils, fire rate, damage statistics. They have all these different elements, which I guess you could argue, I'm not going to deny this, you could argue that adds another element of skill. But I think that it adds too much of a randomness if you were to pit up two players of exactly equal skill against each other. Sometimes, one gun is just going to be strictly better than another. In the Call of Duty series, we've seen this notoriously, like in Modern Warfare 2, everyone used like the ACR, the Scar H, and no one used the F2000 because that gun was just outclassed by everything. Or everyone used the UMP. If guns outclass each other, then two players of equal skill are not going to have an equal fight. And I think this is where Halo excels and why it's so successful in the MLG community because of this. So I think I'm running a little bit short on time, but real quick, the last topic I wanted to cover was in-game mechanics. So the in-game mechanics are basically how the game works, how it flows, how different things work in the game. So I'm not going to be able to go into much depth on this, and I'll probably cover it later. But the idea of recoil, in Call of Duty, the idea that you have to control your fire rate, that's an in-game mechanic. Bullet spread and hit detection are both things that Halo and Call of Duty have to account for. Halo less, obviously in Halo there's no recoil, so Call of Duty kind of edges out on gun control, how well you can handle different weapons, because again, like I was saying earlier, it's another element of skill that you have to control. So, the video's probably winding down, or has winded down. I should note that I don't actually watch the gameplays while I record the commentary because I find them kind of distracting. So if the game's long over, sorry. If it's not, and I'm sorry. But I want you guys to leave your feedback. Obviously, I didn't cover everything that I wanted to. Maybe I missed some things. Maybe you thought I was biased, and that's perfectly okay to point out. You guys voice your opinions. Say which one you like, but give it some firm reasoning. It's totally okay to have a preference, but don't just bash another game because you don't like it or you don't understand much about it. There are things about Call of Duty that I obviously don't understand. So I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll talk to you guys later.